The stars outside Zarkon Prime shimmered cold and distant. From the grand windows of the Galactic Council Hall, Ambassador Darius Vin watched them, unaware of the horror about to unfold. He stood tall in his black diplomatic robes, hands clasped behind his back. His face, usually calm, showed signs of worry. Something was wrong today. He could feel it. Across the galaxy, millions gathered around screens. On ships, in homes, and inside embassies, citizens tuned in to what was promised to be a message from the Zorian Empire. No one expected what they were about to see. The screen in the council chamber flickered. The Zorian insignia, an obsidian serpent wrapped around a blood-red star, appeared first. Then came Supreme Warden Kale Threx. Tall, with skin like gray stone and eyes as cold as ice, Threx stood before a massive open arena filled with prisoners. He wore black armor, polished and sharp, reflecting the harsh sunlight of the execution world, Draxus 4. "This is the price of rebellion," Threx said, his voice hard and calm. Then, without warning, it began. Rows of bound prisoners, men, women, even children, were marched into the center of the arena. Metal drones hovered overhead, broadcasting every second in high detail. No trial, no mercy. Execution machines lined up, humming with energy. In seconds, the screams began. The galaxy watched as 50,000 lives were taken in waves of brutal efficiency. Some council members turned away. Others stared, frozen. Darius couldn't move. His breath caught in his throat. He felt like he was drowning in silence. On his wrist console, a sudden alert blinked. Encrypted transmission, priority level red. He stepped away from the chamber and opened the message in private. A pixelated face appeared. It was General Kira Solin, a rebel leader from Draxus 4. Her face was bruised and bloodied, but her voice was steady. "If this message reaches you, the Empire has silenced us," she said. "We weren't all rebels. Half of us were civilians. Children, teachers, healers. We surrendered. They promised fair trials." She paused to cough, blood staining her lips. "They lied. The executions were pre-planned. They used neural suppressants on prisoners, banned tech. The files are hidden in Zorian Command Archive 9. Please, don't let this be forgotten." The message cut out. Darius stood still, the screen now black. His hands shook, not from fear, but from fury. He looked back at the council chamber. Still the footage played. Still people died. The Empire had sent a message, but not just to rebels. To everyone. This was no warning. It was a declaration. The Zorians wanted the galaxy to know that mercy was gone. Darius turned to his aide, a young officer named Lina. "Call an emergency council session," he said quietly. Lina looked pale. "Sir, do you think they'll listen?" Darius looked back at the broadcast, then down at his console. "They'll listen," he said, "or this galaxy dies next." Far above, the stars burned on, cold and uncaring. The council chamber, once a place of law and diplomacy, now felt like a battlefield. Tension crackled in the air as Darius Vin stood before the assembled representatives. Flags of 100 worlds hung from the walls, symbols of unity, but in this moment, they felt like decorations at a funeral. Darius's voice was firm but calm. What we witnessed was not justice. It was mass murder. Some delegates nodded. Others avoided his eyes. The Zorian Empire's power reached far, and fear kept many silent. The broadcast of the executions had shocked the galaxy, but fear of Zorian wrath held tighter than outrage. Supreme Warden Kale Threx entered the chamber like a storm cloaked in silence. His long black coat brushed the floor. A security drone floated behind him. He didn't speak at first. He didn't need to. "Ambassador Vin," Threx said finally, his voice like steel sliding against stone. "Do you understand what rebellion costs?" Darius met his eyes. Those people were civilians, executed without trial. "We have the evidence." Threx stepped forward, unshaken. "We have laws in the Empire. Those who take up arms against the throne know the price. You call them civilians. We call them traitors." The council grew quiet. No one wanted to be next on Threx's list. Darius placed his hands on a lectern. General Kira Solin's final message clearly states. Threx cut him off. A rebel's dying words hold no weight here. Lina, Darius's aide, leaned toward him and whispered, Sir, they're stalling. They want you to lose control. Darius kept his tone steady. I ask for a full investigation under interstellar law. I demand that Zorian Command Archive 9 be open to the Council. Threx let out a soft, cold laugh. You demand? He looked around the room. This is why the Empire thrives, and your Earth coalition struggles. You debate. We act. Council President Marin cleared her throat. Supreme Warden, the Council will consider the Ambassador's request. No need, Threx replied. The Empire will not recognize this investigation. And if you push, we will reconsider our membership in this Council altogether. That was the threat. If the Empire left the Council, the fragile peace between systems would collapse. Trade would halt. War could follow. The session was adjourned in silence. Darius left the chamber, his heart heavy. Outside, the towers of Zarkon Prime reached into a stormy sky. Rain began to fall, thin, acidic drops that hissed against the metal pavement. Lina followed close. We lost them, she said. Not yet, Darius answered. There are still some who care about truth. We just have to find them. That night, Darius prepared a secure message to Earth, warning that diplomacy was failing. He didn't get the chance to send it. His transport shuttle exploded just after he entered the hangar. The blast threw him across the floor, the shockwave tearing through the metal walls. Alarm screamed. Flames licked at the ceiling. Darius crawled to cover, his ears ringing. Security bots rushed in, too late to help. Someone had tried to kill him. He staggered his feet, cut and burned. Lina reached him with a medic drone. This wasn't sabotage, she said. This was a warning. Darius nodded, breathing hard. Then we're getting close. That night, they fled the diplomatic quarters and went underground. If the Empire wanted silence, they would have to hunt him in the shadows. And in those shadows, Darius would find the truth, and those still brave enough to stand for it. The undercity of Zarkon Prime was a world apart from the gleaming towers above. Here, beneath the polished metal streets, old tunnels twisted like veins through the rock. Steam hissed from broken pipes, and dim lights flickered overhead. The air smelled of oil, rust, and desperation. Darius then moved quietly through the shadows, his dark cloak pulled tight. Lina walked beside him, guiding the way with a handheld scanner. They had left the upper city behind after the attack on a shuttle. Now they were hiding in the depths, where the Empire rarely looked and even more rarely cared. Where are we going? Darius asked. To someone who hates the Empire more than we do, Lina replied. If she's still alive. A metal door appeared at the end of a narrow corridor. Lina knocked once, paused, then knocked twice more. Silence. Then the door creaked open. A woman stood inside, holding a plasma knife. Her eyes were sharp, her short silver hair streaked with black grease. She looked Darius up and down. You brought the diplomat, she said. That's either brave or stupid. Linnas millet feinti. Ryla, meet the man who still thinks words can save the galaxy. Ryla lowered the blade, but didn't smile. Comin. But if you're tracked, we're all dead. The inside of her hideout was cramped and dark. Screens lined one wall, showing grainy surveillance footage from the city above. Tools, weapons, and data chips were scattered across tables. Ryla motioned for them to sit. I saw the broadcast, she said. Watched it 3 times. The Empire didn't just want to punish. They wanted to send a message. That's not law. That's fear. Darius nodded. I need proof. General Solin said the real records are in Zorian Command Archive 9. If I bring that to the Council, they'll have no choice but to act. Ryla scoffed. They always have a choice, and they usually choose silence. I have to try, Darius said. Ryla studied him for a moment. You really believe in this Council, don't you? I believe someone has to stand up, he answered. After a long pause, Ryla stood. Then let's go steal the truth. Archive 9 was buried beneath the surface of Zarkon Prime, hidden beneath a fake storage depot guarded by Zorian drones. Getting in was nearly impossible. Nearly. With Ryla's stolen access codes and Darius's diplomatic clearance, they made their way through maintenance tunnels that hadn't been used in decades. Ryla crawled ahead, disabling old traps and bypassing security nodes. Lena monitored their movement, watching the scanners for signs of patrols. After hours of crawling, ducking, and sweating in silence, they reached a sealed door with the Zorian emblem. Ryla plugged in her hacking tool. "This is it," she whispered. "Once I break the seal, they'll know someone's inside. We'll have 5 minutes, 6 if we're lucky." "Then let's move," Darius said. The door hissed open. Cold air rushed out. Inside, rows of memory cores lined the walls. Darius and Lena began copying files, targeting logs, orders, and footage. The system held everything. The real names of the executed, medical scans proving civilian status, and even internal orders signed by Threx himself. "Got it," Lena said. "All of it." Suddenly, the lights flickered red. An alarm sounded. "They're coming," Ryla said. "Back through the tunnels." Now, they ran. Sirens echoed above. Security drones dropped into the depot. Shots rang out. A blast scorched the tunnel behind them as they fled through the darkness, dodging metal debris and fallen pipes. They emerged into a maintenance shaft behind a water plant and climbed up into the rain. Ryla turned to Darius. "You've got your truth. Now, make it matter." Darius held the data drive tight in his hand, heart pounding. For the first time in days, he felt hope. He had the evidence. He had the truth. But now, he had to survive long enough to show it. The Galactic Council Hall was quiet as Darius Vin stepped inside once again. But this time, he was not uncertain. He no longer carried only accusations, he carried proof. The truth was safe in a small silver data drive tucked safely in his cloak. It contained video footage, command orders, medical scans, and names, thousands of names. He walked slowly through the chamber, past the flags of the galaxy's many worlds. Eyes followed him, some hopeful, some afraid, others cold and unreadable. Lena followed at his side, her face calm but tense. Somewhere out there, the Zorians knew what he had, and they were waiting. Council President Marin sat at the center seat, her expression neutral. "Ambassador Van," she said, "you've called for an emergency hearing. What new evidence do you bring?" Darius stepped forward and placed the data drive into the central console. The lights dimmed as the chamber's holoscreens flickered to life. First came the execution logs. Thousands of names scrolled by, marked with civilian status. Then came the medical scans, showing signs of neurosuppressant use, illegal technology that erased pain, thought, and emotion. Finally, the video files. High-resolution footage of prisoners being marched into place, some crying, others dazed and limp. Many were unarmed. Some were children. The room went silent. Then, the last file, a transmission from Supreme Warden Threx, dated days before the broadcast. "Execute all captives. Broadcast it. Rebellion must be buried in fear. Civilian status is irrelevant. Let the galaxy know what happens to traitors." Darius stood tall. "This is not a defensive order. This is genocide. And we, the members of this council, must act." The silence broke. Ambassador Kaline of the Rulon Confederacy stood. "This is an outrage. If we allow this to pass without judgment, we are no better than the ones who did it." But then, Ambassador Therick from the Dorlax Union spoke. "And if we act, the Zorian Empire will retaliate. War will follow. Do we risk our people over rebels and lawbreakers?" Others began to murmur. Fear filled the room once again. Darius looked around the chamber. 50,000 lives. That's not fear. That's surrender. If we stand for peace, then we must stand for justice. If the law means anything, it must mean this. President Marin looked tired. "We will consider your request for sanctions and investigation." But this council moves slowly. As Darius left the hall, he felt the weight of every step. Lena caught up to him outside. "They saw it," she said. "They believe it." "They do," Darius replied. "But believing is not the same as acting." That evening, in a hidden corner of the diplomatic quarter, Darius received a secure call. It came from General Marco Silent, commander of Earth's military forces in coalition space. "You did good, Darius," Marco said. "But the council won't do anything. You know that. They're afraid. Darius said. They should be. I'm offering you a solution. What kind of solution? Marco leaned closer to the screen. A precision strike. We hit the Zorian shipyard at Belmore, 7. Destroy their production lines. Show them we're not afraid to act. No, Darius said at once. If we strike without warning, we start a war. They already did, Marco snapped. You just don't want to admit it. Darius leaned back, face pale but firm. This has to be done the right way. If we sink to their level, then we've already lost. Marco sighed. You're a good man, Darius. But one day, good won't be enough. The screen went dark. Later that night, Darius stood alone on the embassy balcony. Rain fell softly, streaking the glass. Far in the sky, the towers of Zarkon glowed red. He thought of the victims. He thought of the council. And he thought of Ryla, the dissident who had risked everything to help him. He would not give up. Not yet. The truth was out now. The Empire's lies were broken. But truth alone would not bring justice. The council had to act. And if they would not, he would find a way to make them. Zarkon Prime never slept. Even at night, the sky was filled with blinking lights from patrol drones, security beacons, and transport ships. But deep beneath the surface, where the Empire's cameras could not reach, silence ruled. Darius Venn sat in a dim chamber beneath the old transport lines, surrounded by cables and metal crates. Across from him, Ryla worked at a terminal, her fingers flying over the keys. She looked tired, worn down by years of hiding and fighting. But her eyes were sharp. They know you've got the full archive now, she said. The Empire won't let you leave this planet alive. Darius nodded. They already tried once. I won't be surprised if they try again. We don't have time for cautious steps anymore, Ryla said. If we want this truth to reach the Council and stay there, we have to send it through the deep relay system, direct and encrypted. Then let's do it, Darius said. Ryla shook her head. It's not that simple. The relay is buried in the Imperial core grid. I can get to it. You can't. You're too well known. The moment your face shows up on any scanner, you're dead. Darius leaned forward. So what do we do? I go, Ryla said, her voice flat. Alone. Lina, sitting nearby, stood up quickly. That's suicide. I know the route, Ryla replied. I built part of the relay when I was still in service. I can get in. I can send the data. But once I send it, the grid will flag the breach. They'll come. Darius stared at her. There must be another way. There's not, Ryla said. This is the only chance. If I send the archive from there, every council system will receive it in real time. No one will be able to stop it. Not even Threx. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Darius stood and walked over to her. I didn't come here for people to die from me, he said quietly. Ryla gave a small smile. You didn't. You came here for the truth. I already chose my side a long time ago, Ambassador. She grabbed the data drive and slipped it into a reinforced packet. She strapped it beneath her jacket, then picked up a blaster and slung it across her back. I'll need a distraction, she said. I'll give you one, Linus said. I'll jam the local scanner feeds for 5 minutes. It's all I can manage. Ryla nodded and gave a brief, grateful look. Ryla moved through the tunnels like a ghost. She knew every path, every blind corner. Her steps were silent, her face calm. She passed beneath layers of the city, into the old foundations where the Imperial core grid pulsed with power. Above her, guards patrolled. Drones buzzed. And in the sky, the Empire remained blind for now. She reached the relay chamber and opened the access panel. Her fingers moved quickly, plugging the drive into the console and running the upload program. Lights blinked. The screen displayed the progress bar. Uploading. 23%. 47%. 81%. Outside the room, boots pounded against the metal floor. Upload complete. Signal sent. HFY Dilly Fret. She pulled the drive and dropped it into a furnace chute, burning it instantly. Then she turned to face the entrance. A squad of armored Zorian enforcers burst through the door. She didn't run. She raised her weapon and fired. Not for survival, but for defiance. She took 3 of them with her before they brought her down. Back in the underground hideout, the screens lit up all at once. Data flowed into the system, copied and distributed across the Council's secure channels. Footage, files, orders. Everything. Darius stood in silence, watching the upload complete. She did it, Lena said softly. Darius nodded, grief tightening in his chest. She gave everything, he whispered. He turned to the screen and opened the council's emergency broadcast line. It's time, he said, and then he began recording his final message. The Galactic Council Hall was full. Every seat, every balcony, every screen was active. Delegates from every corner of the galaxy had gathered, some in person, others through holographic projection. No one could ignore what had happened. Not after the transmission. Darius Van stood at the center of it all. Behind him, the great display screen hovered in silence, waiting. Lena stood nearby, quiet, eyes on the delegates. She had barely slept since Ryla's sacrifice. Neither had Darius. President Marin struck her gavel. This emergency session of the Galactic Council is now in order. Ambassador Van, you have the floor. Darius stepped forward slowly. He held a small remote in his hand. 2 days ago, he began, evidence was sent from deep within the Zorian Empire. It confirmed what many feared and what the Empire tried to hide. He pressed a button. The lights dimmed. The screen lit up. Video clips played, prisoners crying out, medical scans showing suppressed brain function, orders signed by Kale Threx demanding total extermination. The crowd was silent, faces pale, eyes wide. Then came Ryla's last message. Her face, bloodied but strong, filled the chamber. This was my choice. The Empire thinks fear wins. But I'm not afraid. You shouldn't be either. Don't let them lie anymore. Make them answer for what they've done. The video ended. Darius looked at the crowd. The Zorian Empire committed genocide, and they did it on camera. They didn't try to hide it. They wanted us to see. They believed we would do nothing. He took a step forward, voice clear. Now we decide if they were right. A long silence followed. No one moved. Then, slowly, President Marin stood. We will now call the vote, she said. All member states must declare their position. Sanctions and war crimes investigation against the Zorian Empire. Yes or no? Delegates began to speak one by one. Yes, said the ambassador from Rilon Confederacy. Yes, echoed the Andari clans. Yes, from the human delegation. A few abstained. Fewer said no. The majority was overwhelming. When the final vote was counted, Marin turned to the chamber. The motion passes. The Zorian Empire is hereby charged with violations of interstellar law. Sanctions will begin at once. An independent tribunal will be formed to investigate the executions on Draxus 4. Any resistance to this process will be considered an act of war. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. Then a cold voice rang out. You've just made a grave mistake. Kale Threx stood at the rear of the chamber, flanked by 2 armored guards. He had arrived silently, without formal entry. His face showed no emotion. You choose weakness, he said. You hide behind laws and votes. We are not finished. The Empire does not forget. He turned and walked away, vanishing through the exit. Darius watched him go. Neither do we, he said quietly. Hours later, back in the human diplomatic quarters, Darius sat with Lena. The stars outside were calm. For now. It's done, Lena said. Darius shook his head. It's begun. She looked at him. Do you think Threx will attack? Yes, Darius said. Eventually. But now the galaxy is watching. And he knows it. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small metal pendant. Rylas. He placed it on the table between them. She believed truth could fight fear, he said. And she was right. Across the galaxy, the Zorian Empire closed its borders. Warships repositioned. Trade routes froze. But so did silence. For the first time, the Empire was on the defensive. And the galaxy, once afraid, had taken a stand. The sun over Earth's capital rose slow and golden, touching the white spires of the Coalition Tower. It had been 3 weeks since the Galactic Council passed its resolution against the Zorian Empire. Tensions still hung across the stars, but there had been no attack. Not yet. Inside a tall, quiet office on the 42nd floor, Darius Van stood before a large window, watching the light spread across the city. It looked peaceful, calm, but he knew how quickly peace could break. He had seen it. A message blinked on his console. From Council President Marin. Subject: Tribunal formation approved. First session in 14 days. He nodded to himself. The wheels of justice were turning. Slowly, but they were moving. The tribunal would bring witnesses, present charges, and hold those responsible accountable. If the Empire cooperated. That was still uncertain. Lena entered, carrying a datapad. Updates from the border, she said. Zorian fleets are still repositioning. No new attacks, no direct responses. But they're watching. Waiting. They're angry, Darius said. Good, she replied. Let them be. He gave a tired smile. I used to believe peace could be maintained with words alone. You still do, Lena said. But now you know what it costs. Darius turned away from the window. He walked over to his desk and sat down. There, placed neatly in the corner, was Ryla's pendant. He picked it up and closed his hand around it. She gave everything, he said quietly, for a message, for a future she wouldn't see. Lena nodded. That future still has a chance. Because of her. Because of you. Outside, a coalition transport ship roared past the window, heading for orbit. Supplies. Diplomats. Peacekeepers. A new task force had been approved, charged with monitoring Zorian movements and protecting vulnerable systems. It was not a war fleet, but it was a message. The galaxy would not stand by in silence anymore. Darius stood and looked at the stars once more. We still have so far to go, he said. But we've started, Lena replied. We've taken the first step. They stood there a moment longer, quiet in the early light. Then Darius turned back to his console. Messages waited. Briefings. Meetings. The work had only begun. He took a deep breath and sat down. Somewhere, far beyond the stars, Kael'threx would be planning his next move. The Zorian Empire had been wounded, but not defeated. The struggle was not over. It might never truly end. But truth had spoken. Justice had answered. And fear had lost its voice, even for a moment. Darius would be ready for whatever came next. And he would never stop fighting for the peace Ryla had died to protect.